I find technique like, it's not something I like to think about too much, you know. You never want to watch a musician and think, wow, he's really good at what he does. He's really technically very sharp, you know. You want someone to, put out some emotion in his sound, and I think that's more important than any musician could ever, that every musician really wants to do. I'm Buttery, grew up on the north coast of KwaZulu-Natal. Yeah, I spent a lot of my youth around the coastal sides and the interior cane lands around South Africa, particularly KwaZulu-Natal, but I've kind of gone all over the place since then. But in my childhood, I kind of missioned around big time, went surfing up the north coast and missioning around these forests here, and basically kind of taking in as much from the landscape as possible and kind of putting it into the music, you know. I'm inspired by a whole bunch of different kinds of music, so the techniques that I use in my songs are kind of from various. I studied classical, so I use a lot of classical technique, and I study jazz, so I use a whole bunch of jazz ideas, I suppose. But also play a bunch of Zulu Maskanda stuff and Celtic stuff and all kinds of world music, but I try not to think about it too much. I'm just exploring sound and trying to make the guitar an orchestra, trying to get as much different ideas and textures and harmonic possibilities out of the instrument.
He pushes the musical boundaries. I mean, for me, he's like the Miles Davis of acoustic guitar. For me, he's forever searching for new frontiers to absorb into his playing, and he's a very unpredictable musician. When I say unpredictable, it's like anything's possible for him, and he'll sink his teeth into anything, and that's what makes him a great guitar player, a musician, composer, friend.
In a live environment, it's all about the energy, It's about getting that song out with a lot of, power or emotion. It's kind of, what do they say about dynamics? It's like circumcising an ant. You got to be really precise with how you want to, push the piece emotionally. And that's the beauty of playing a song 100 different ways, is that, especially on your own as a solo performer, you can improvise and you can stretch it different ways, how you're feeling on the night. I suppose one of my favorite shows off the top of my head was this gig I did in Italy at this guitar festival. It was just a huge, mad lineup of guitar players who I've always digged, like since I was 15, and it was like a nice, crazy auditorium, 500-seater vibe. But I mean, I've all over. Cape Town, I love playing Cape Town. I love playing all over South Africa, and all different kind of venues, dingy little club vibes and like nice, cool theater gigs. I dig them all, because there's something, the music breathes differently every night, and that's something beautiful about playing in different spaces.
Buttery is a ninja. He's a wizard ninja. I remember the first few times that I went to go watch him, I always felt a little bit depressed afterwards, because the level of his guitaring was just so phenomenal. He would just pull off all these moves that I didn't even know were possible on a guitar, and I would get depressed because I thought I was quite happy with the competence that I had on a guitar. But the cool thing is, after that sort of depressing phase, and being really inspired, that sort of molded into an ambition and an excitement where I'd go, well, look at all the stuff that I've got to, look how much I have to learn, So every once in a while I'll say, hey Guy, how do you do that? And he'll like maybe teach me something. So yeah, he's just flipping amazing.
I find Guy's playing exceptionally musical. Just really is. His technique and his virtuosity is something to take note of. I've always thought of that, and is one of my favorite guitarists and musicians around. Yeah, so in general, I think he's pretty average. I'm kidding.
Recording my songs in a studio environment is obviously, it's completely different to playing in front of a live audience. I suppose the energy interplay between the audience and the artist is non-existent, I suppose, and there is a slight clinical vibe being, in a space with microphones and a headphone on, and just being in that environment. But there's something really sweet about trying to get your playing really down, trying to get the song expressed as beautifully as you can. And you got to put your head somewhere else for a while. You got to kind of take yourself deep into the song.